Happy Tuesday, everybody. Yay, Tuesday again. Welcome back to your bite-sized teachings on the Hebrew alphabet. And it's amazing the difference in opinion that I get from people, because I get some people who say, oh, my soul, there's so much information crammed into like 10 minutes or 8 minutes, or some of them I think are 5 minutes long. So much information crammed into these short sort of teachings that their brains almost can't cope. And then I get other people who are like, oh, it's such a nice hors d'oeuvre, and now I want the rest of the meal, So I'm sure there will be a rest of the meal at some point in time. I just need to gather all my notes and all my research and put it into some kind of cohesive, plan, so that I can speak more in depth on all of these things, because they really are exciting. So today we are doing the 19th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and I want to prepare you in advance, okay? If you can speak Hebrew and you watch these teachings for whatever reason, if ever before I have not pronounced something correctly, this episode is probably going to be the episode where I will pronounce something incorrectly. I have been on the internet and have Googled the pronunciation, not just of this specific letter, but of some of the words that I want to use in this teaching. And it's like you can pronounce it like a whole lot of different ways. I don't know if there is a right way or a wrong way. But okay, so the 19th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the letter Qof. Now, it is spelled Qof or Qoph or Kuf. And I have heard people pronounce it Qof, I've heard people pronounce it Qof, and I've heard people pronounce it Kuf. So I don't know which one is the right one. If you are Hebrew and you speak Hebrew, if you could video yourself saying the letter and send it to me, please, I would appreciate that. For want of a better way, I'm going to call it Qof, because that makes more sense to me. And if you're confused by the letter, I'm just going to confuse you a little bit further and say that phonetically, in English, it's the Qwa for queen, but it's said as a K for kick. So there we go. I don't know. However, all of that aside, I love this letter because the pictograph is the sun coming over the horizon. I mean, especially if you live in Cape Town, we have the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets in the whole entire world. So anything that depicts the sun rising over the horizon is just beautiful. And that is what this pictograph depicts. It's absolutely incredible. And so with that, the meanings are circle, revolution, condense, time, and also then separation and set apart. And the kind of revelation or the Hebraic thinking or knowledge behind that comes from the fact that when God set the sun and the moon in the sky, when he set the light in the sky, he said that they were going to separate day from night. So the whole sun coming over the horizon represents time and separation in that regard, in terms of separating the day from the night. And then that is taken a step further in terms of a messianic viewpoint to represent the fact that Jesus divides time. So, you get before Christ, BC, and then you get AD, which is after Christ. And so Jesus actually divides time. So there is a messianic interpretation to the letter, which brings Jesus into this as well, which I just find amazing. And the root word of Qof is, again, forgive me if I say this incorrectly, karav, which means to come close. So it's almost like there's a separation, but a calling to be set apart, and then a calling to come close to Jesus. All of this in this one letter, which is incredible. In addition to all of that, the first letter of the word kedusha, which means holiness, is Qof, which means therefore that it also represents holiness. So in the separation, in the fact that the letter kind of represents separation, they then lead that out to represent being set apart and being holy. And as we know, in Leviticus 11:44, it says, "For I am the Lord your God, so consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am holy. Neither defile yourselves with any manner of thing that multiplies in large numbers or swarms." But we won't worry about that. We just worry about the first part for now, which is consecrate yourself, be holy, for I am holy. Then we're just going to add a little spanner in the work. So remember last week and a couple of the other letters we've spoken about, I've told you how you get some letters in the Hebrew alphabet that present you with a choice where you can basically go one way or the other way. So one of the other meanings of this letter is monkey. I know. I don't get it either. I don't understand how you go from that to monkey, but it is. And so monkey is, it represents animalism. So in terms of the fact that we as people are seen as a higher level of creation because of our capacity for speech, the monkey is seen as a lower level of creation because it doesn't have a capacity for speech in terms of language like we have. And so the letter actually represents animalism. So it's said to represent a choice between holiness and animalistic, between purity, holiness, purity, and righteousness, and basically being animalistic and, I suppose, driven by your baser instincts. The opposite of holiness, purity, and righteousness, which I found really, really interesting. Now, numerically, yes. So this is the next thing. So now we are on number 100. So the numeric value for Qof, as the 19th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is the number 100. And from here onwards, we go up in hundreds. So we were going up in tens, but now we go up in hundreds for the last couple of letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So the numeric value is 100, and that speaks of abundant return and completeness. There were 100 silver sockets, which formed the foundation of the tabernacle. And the reference given in the Messianic context is Mark 10, verse 30. Mark 10, verse 30, I'm in the wrong place. Here we go. Where it says, "Who will not receive 100 times as much now in this time? Houses and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and lands, with persecutions, in the age to come, eternal life." So it comes, from that story where he's saying, the disciples are saying to Jesus, "We've given everything up for you. We've left our families, our mothers, our brothers, our houses, and we've left everything to follow you." And Jesus is saying, "And who will not receive 100 times as much now in this time? Everything you've yielded and given up and laid down for me, you will receive 100 times as much, but also persecution." He tacks that on at the end. So that is where the abundant return and completeness, that sort of meaning comes from, is from that space. And then I'm sure you must remember, but previously in one of the Hebrew letters, and off the top of my head now, I forget which one it was, but we spoke about Psalm 119 and the fact that the psalm is an acrostic, which means that every so many verses, every section, every so many verses starts with another letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and so that the whole Hebrew alphabet is represented within Psalm 119, except the one that we left out. And if you don't know what that is all about, go back and watch the others, watch the other 18 letters, because it's really interesting. And so in Psalm 119, from verse 145 to 152, the acrostic in the Hebrew, all of those verses start with the letter Qof. And I just want to read it to you because it just highlights the whole thing about the time, the division of time, the separateness, the set apartness, and all that sort of thing. So from verse 145, it says, "I cried with my whole heart." And now just remember that the English, there's no acrostic in the English, but just, in the Hebrew, each one of these sentences started with the Hebrew letter Qof. I cried with my whole heart, hear me, O Lord. I will keep your statutes. I will hear, receive, love, and obey them. I cried to you, save me, that I may keep your testimonies, hearing, receiving, loving, and obeying them. Okay, now I anticipated the dawning of the morning, the sun coming up over the horizon, and cried in childlike prayer. I hoped in your word. My eyes anticipate the night watches, and I am awake before the cry of the watchman, that I may meditate on your word. Hear my voice according to your steadfast love, O Lord. Quicken me and give me life according to your righteous decrees. They draw near who follow after wrong thinking and persecute me with wickedness. They are far from your law. You are near, O Lord, nearer to me than my foes, and all your commandments are truth. Of old have I known your testimonies, and for a long time, therefore, it is a thoroughly established conviction that you have founded them forever. And that whole section out of Psalm 119, that whole acrostic, David has used the letter Qof to start at the beginning of all of those sentences, and the depiction of time and the division of time and the sun coming up over the horizon, but at the same time, the kind of what is the word I'm looking for? This sort of revelation, or the understanding, the Hebraic understanding that the Jewish people would have got from the fact that if you want to walk in holiness, if you want to not make the monkey choice to be animalistic and obey your baser instincts, but to actually walk in holiness because God himself is holy, how do you go about that? And you go about that by meditating on the word of the Lord, by meditating on his righteousness, by putting all your faith and your trust in him. So the meaning of the letter is encapsulated in those verses in that Psalm 119. And I think that is it's just incredible. And then the last little gem I have for you is that Qof also means to call or to gather. And the messianic understanding of that is that one day Jesus is going to divide time for all eternity when he calls and gathers us all to him and takes us into the next age. And so there is that kind of feeling or revelation or comprehension around that letter Qof, which again just speaks of, the numeric value of 100 with the abundant return and the completeness that will happen when Jesus comes back and calls us all and gathers us all to himself. So that is the letter Qof. And for all the fact that it's incredibly difficult to know exactly how to pronounce it, it's a really amazing letter. And it's the sort of thing you never forget in terms of the pictograph with the sun coming up over the horizon. So I know that letter, out of a lot of them, is going to stick in your mind. And I just think that it is a constant reminder to just be holy because God is holy. And to make sure that when we presented with these two choices, that we make the right ones. And we are separated for him and set apart for him and ready to be gathered up when he returns. So I hope you enjoyed that one, because I really loved that one. The next one, the Hebrew letter that we're going to look at next Tuesday, is the letter Resh. And so we'll have a look at that next Tuesday. So remember, from now on, we go up in hundreds, no more tens anymore. We're doing hundreds from now on, which adds its own interpretation to the whole thing. And remember to message me, reach out to me via any of the means of communication reflected on the screen if you have anything to say. And if you know exactly how to pronounce those words that I have probably mispronounced in this episode, please send me a video, a voice recording. I want to know why so many people pronounce it so differently. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, but it's still amazing and it's still exciting. And I will see you on Thursday for the prophetic teaching. And then I will see you next Tuesday for the next letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And we are drawing to a close. So I hope you've enjoyed this, because they're almost over. So love you lots. See you next week. And have an awesome, amazing time.